Welcome to this Simple Solutions FM video tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to talk about the third step in the process of importing an AutoCAD drawing into Evolve FM. The third step is importing the DWF drawing itself into the Evolve application. So let's take a look at Evolve. So in this tutorial we're going to bring in floor 8 of the Union Park building. We could see floor 7 and 9 currently exist, so we'll bring in floor 8. But before we do that, we want to go to our space component here and check our facility structure. So first is our properties. We're going to bring this floor plan into the corporate headquarters property. It's going to be located in the Union Park building, and it's going on floor 8. So we can see that currently our property, building, and floor exist in Evolve FM. So you want to make sure your actual floor location exists in the system before you bring in the DWF. We could see it hasn't been brought in yet because the total area is 0. So let's bring in that DWF file. So if we go to Platform Administration, we'll expand drawings and expand drawing management. We're going to click new because we're bringing in a new DWF file. We'll select file, go out and select that DWF file that we created in step 2 in the step 2 tutorial. We'll click open. We'll assign it to the floor plan category. Assign it to the property, building, and floor location. This is why it's important to have your facility structure set up in Evolve before you proceed. And we're going to use the advanced conversion type. The advanced conversion type will stop at every page of the upload process, so that'll allow us to see each step as it processes. The express options go through this entire process automatically, so it would not stop at each of the different pages during the import. So here we'll click next. Step 2, the advanced conversion options. We have include drawing objects. If we had AutoCAD blocks on the DWF file that we wanted to bring in as AutoCAD as Evolve assets, we could select this checkbox here. If we had curved polylines on the DWF file, the drawing, we could select this option to optimize the hatch on those curved rooms when that brings it into Evolve. The other options here all do not relate to a tagged DWF file. So there's nothing that has to be done on any of those other options. And because we are neither bringing in drawing objects and we don't have curved polylines in our DWF file, we don't have to make a selection here. So I'm just going to click next. Match existing records. So these are the options to match records in Evolve. This is a brand new DWF file that I'm bringing into floor 8, so we don't have existing records yet. But if we did, we would want to match by either the entity handle. Remember the entity handle on the tagged polyline? We saw that on the tag. It was the Evolve handle. We could match to records in Evolve by the entity handle, or we can match by the record ID. And if we select record ID, we're going to choose number from the drawing property. And if you recall from the Step 1 tutorial where we tagged the drawing, the number property or attribute contained the room number. So that we can match on the room number or on the entity handle. Since this is a brand new drawing, it really doesn't matter what I match on, so because we have no existing records. So I'm going to, let's just match on the entity handle. We'll click next. Link records. This is important to always pause and review your objects in the counts. We have 3 data counts here. The first one is drawing objects, so it's counting all of the objects that are included on the incoming DWF file. So in that case, we have on our DWF file, we have our space objects, and we have that one floor object, the drawing gross area polyline, and then all of our space polylines. So in Evolve, it's going to create 142 new records. These are new space records it's creating. It won't create a new record for that floor gross polyline. It'll just take that area calculation and put it on the current or existing floor record for that polyline. And we'll take a look at that at the end of the import. So it's counting, it has 142 new records, no match records because it's a brand new DWF file coming in. And it has 143 drawing objects, which makes perfect sense because there's 142 space objects plus that one floor gross area. By default, it'll create new records. If we had matched records here, it would automatically select the link match records checkbox as well. And then we just click next. Update attributes. This is step 5 of the process. For new records, we have two sections here, new records and matched records. For any new records coming in, which we have 142 new space records, it's asking you, do you want to add the drawing object attribute data to Evolve? So in other words, do you want to bring the tag data in and assign it to the Evolve space record? So yes, we want to do that because we want to make sure Evolve gets updated with the entity handle value, the number value, which is the room number, and the area for each of the polylines. So those are the 3 data points that are being brought in through the DWF file into Evolve FM. Again, that's the entity handle, the space ID, which is the room number, and the area or the square footage of that room. Match records. If we had match records, we don't because this is a new floor plan coming in. It's asking us, do we want to overwrite existing Evolve data with drawing object attribute values? In other words, do we want to update the data in Evolve with the tag data coming in from the DWF? So yes, you would want to do that as well, 99% of the time. We don't have existing records or matched records, but we'll click yes here just for the sake of the tutorial. We'll click next. Orphan spaces is step 6. What orphan spaces are, we don't have any on this DWF file. That's why it just proceeded and completed the import. Orphan spaces would be if a space record existed in Evolve, but that polyline and space ID no longer exist on the DWF file. So, for example, if you removed a polyline and its associated text from the DWF, brought it into Evolve, it would ask you under that orphaned record page if you wanted to delete that orphan record from Evolve. And again, 99% of the time, you would want to do that. So here we see it brought in our 8th floor. This is the floor record for that drawing. If I double click, I open up the drawing record for that floor plan. I'll come to my layers tab here and I'll set my default layer state for the drawing viewer. In this case, I'm going to freeze this gross square footage polyline layer because we really don't need to see that in Evolve. And I'm going to turn off the space polylines, as we may want to see it at some point, but we don't want it on all the time in the drawing viewer. And same with the polytext ID. I'm going to just turn that off by default. So if I close this, now we come to our drawings. Come to drawings. We'll expand our corporate headquarters drawing. Now we can see we have floor 8. Click my floor plan. zoom into section here. Now if I select my spaces, we could see the data here. It brought in the number and assigned it to the space ID attribute in evolve. It brought in the square footage and assigned it to the area attribute in evolve, and the entity handle is also associated with this space record. It's just not visible on the front end here. As far as layers, we set up our default layers. We only turned off the space ID, the space layer and the text ID layer, so they still appear in this panel, but you notice the gross square footage, because we had frozen that layer, doesn't exist here, so you can't turn that on and off. So if we wanted to, we could turn our polylines on. We see them here, or we could turn them off. Same with the AutoCAD text layer. We could turn them on. We could see the AutoCAD text layer here. You really don't want to have that on at all times, because it's the evolve label that's associated with the space record. So you want to make sure you're viewing the evolve label and not the AutoCAD text. So if you wanted to edit attributes, if we come back, notice I went up to that file. Let me do that again. If I come up to file options and I click edit attributes, it opens up that same drawing dialog for that floor plan. And if I come to layers and I freeze the poly text ID, so what I'm doing is resetting the default layer state for this floor plan. If I freeze it and click close, then I have to get off the floor plan and come back on it to refresh the drawing. You'll see now in the layer panel that text ID layer isn't available, so we really can't turn that on and off any longer. Also notice over here, if I close this up, these layers, or floors I should call them, are out of order. That's because we didn't properly set the sort order for this new floor. So if we come into the drawing record, again we come to our space, come to our floors, we find floor 8. So if I open floor 8, I double click it to open the space record and scroll down. See the sort order field here? We want to make that a number 2 because we want it to fall under the 7th floor. So 7 will be in sort order 1, it'll be at the top, sort order 2 for floor 8, and sort order 3 for floor 9. So I'll click save. And if we open up 9, we can see that the sort order is set to 3 there. And if we open up 7, it's at sort order 1. So when we go back into the drawing viewer, we'll see how that affects that. But while we're here, notice that the total area for floor 8 has been populated. So if I double click and open up that floor record, I can see the total area value here. Because we brought in that gross square footage polyline, that's where that total area came from. It read the tag, the square footage assigned to that tag on that gross square footage polyline, and put the value in here. We know that it's reading that because it tells us here that the calculation method is drawing gross area. When you bring in a drawing without a drawing gross area polyline, it calculates the net space, which is the square footage total of all your space polylines. And another way to manage this is you can manually enter this value, and when you do that, it would say manually entered over here. So before we end, let's come back to the drawings, and we'll expand corporate headquarters in Union Park, and you'll see now that the floors end up in the correct order. So 7, 8, 9. This concludes this tutorial. For more information about how to bring in a drawing into the Evolve FM CAFM system, please view our corresponding tutorials. And for more information about Simple Solutions FM, please visit our website at www.simplesolutionsfm.com. Thank you for watching.